thank you everybody for joining us today. We are here with Niki Ubaldini and Jonathan Dupree, two of our fantastic Leverage Series instructors. For those of you that don't know me, that'd be pretty hard if you're watching this video at this point, but my name is Liz Landry. I am your KW Talent Community Leader, as well as a MAPS coach. Why are we here today? Well, this is our inaugural session of a series we're calling CV and Caffeine. Why CV and Caffeine? Because the career visioning process is absolutely so crucial to how we hire, onboard, train people in our worlds. And everybody loves a good cup of coffee, tea, or if you're like me, you prefer your drinks a little colder and out of the refrigerator from a can from your favorite grocery store for caffeinated beverage to get you moving through the day. So I hope you'll sit back with us for the next 30 minutes or so, enjoy your caffeine, get your day started, and let's talk about career visioning. So let me introduce our guests today. And I'm going to start with you, Niki. And we were talking before we went live here, and I said, wow, I think the last time that I saw Niki live in person, right? I think it was 2014 or 2015 in RSTLM class, which is what we had before career visioning. So Niki, tell us why you're so passionate about this and kind of your journey to becoming a career visioning instructor, because you've been digging into this material for quite a while. Why is it so
important? Well, we just celebrated our 25th anniversary with Keller Williams. And in career visioning, at the time, it was called Recruit Select, was the very first name. Then it became the 10-step recruiting process. Then it went back to Recruit Select, and then it became Career Visioning. So it's had multiple names and some tweaks here and there. But what I've always discovered, and I'll be honest with you, is that this is the secret sauce that we have, and nobody else has this secret sauce. And if there was one thing that you said to me, Liz, like, Niki, what's the one thing, if you had to pick one thing that changed your life when you joined Keller Williams, you know, if it could only be one thing, this would be the one thing. Learning this and mastering this process literally has changed my life. It has allowed me to bring talent, real talent, into my world, many of which who've been with us for now 20 plus years, who have really changed our world. And at the same time, we're changing their world, because through this process, we're able to find out what's important to them, and we can help them achieve their goals. And it also lets us know, you know, is my world big enough to house their world? And are we in alignment? And if we're not, can we get an alignment? What can I do to change somebody else's life? So this isn't just about hiring people. This is about the life that's going to be created after the hire, for yourself, for them, just the whole organization. So that's why I'm so passionate about it. And, you know, when you teach it, you become a master.
So Niki, for those people that don't know you out there, so they know what lens you're looking at this from, besides just being one of our Leverage Series instructors, what other hats do you wear in the Keller ecosystem so they can kind of see some of that 25-year perspective?
Okay. Well, we joined as mega agents, my husband and I, with our team, the Gary and Niki team, here in the Tampa Bay area, which is still running. We're 7th leveled out of that team. Our son-in-law and a partner run that team for us. But we're also the operating partners for the South Florida region, as well as we're partners in the Ohio Valley region. And I'm also the operating partner for 3 Keller Williams Market Centers here in the Tampa Bay area. And I also, along with my husband and partners, we own 4 title companies.
Well, you don't get to that point without really good leverage. So that's a pretty good testament there. Yeah. All right, let's go to our other guest today. Jonathan, tell us a little bit about you, the lens you look through here, and why you're so passionate about the career visioning process and the Leverage Series in general.
Yeah, you know, I was a team leader back when we had RSTLM, and I lived by the AVA, and now we have career visioning, and I wanted to teach it so bad that when Gary brought me back and I was working as a consultant before I was a regional director, and then he moved me in the RD role, the first thing I told him was, I want to teach CV. I want to teach the Leverage Series, but I'm not certified to teach it. And he said, raise your right hand. I raised my right hand. He said, I certify you to teach career visioning. And I love it because for a couple of reasons. Most people hire by going, oh, I like you. We kind of get along. Yeah. And they have like a 30-minute maybe conversation, and then they hire that person, and then a few weeks later they go, who did I hire? Who is this person I hired? How do I get out of relationship with them? And so the career visioning process gives someone a proven model, a system to follow to make sure that they're eliminating candidates to find the best possible candidate, which is another reason I like it, because it pushes people to have more than one. If you only have one candidate that you're bringing through any kind of process, you don't know if you have the best candidate that comes out because you only had one. And so just the ability to teach someone how to constantly look for talent, and then when you find talent, how to begin to get in relationship with them. Take the KPA, for example. I mean, even if you're not hiring someone, our number one recruiter, if you want to grow your real estate team or your market center, whatever it is, he sent out last year almost 500 KPAs, and he was our top recruiter. He's a black belt team leader. And just amazingly, he will be in the Team Leader Hall of Fame. And he sent out 500 KPAs. The next person to him also was the second highest recruiter, sent out about 200. And then after that, it dropped to 20. And it was because people were just using the KPA as when they were hiring someone versus using it as a tool to get into relationships with people. And then when you go through the 4 interviews, when I'm recruiting people and you get into the motivational interview and they start opening up and pouring out their heart and what they desire, and they start crying, they go, no one's ever asked me these kind of questions before. I've never talked about my goals and my dreams in an interview. And so it's just a magical experience. That's what it is. And it really allows you to get in dialogue with people, make a great hire. And the other candidates, you're going to come away, if you have enough candidates that go through the process, with a bench of talent that you can lean to later if it didn't work out in this role for them. Right. So that's why I love it.
You know, Jonathan, it's funny because you said something about how we do the 30-minute, I like you, you like me, yada, 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 yada. You know, I like horses, you like horses, ha, 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 ha. Or I call it the mercy hire. Many times, you know, like, oh, I really need something. And this is, you know, our mega agents, you know, people that are looking for support, you know, to lift them up, and they're like, I need help. So they find out that their friends, sisters, cousin has, you know, needs a job. Oh yeah. So that works, you know, yeah, they got some background and you know, and this is what this does is it eliminates that mercy hiring, as I call it, where then you said we're trying to get out of business with people. Now, what I love about this process, and here's the other thing that we make a mistake on, if we don't have a process, like Jonathan said, this is a proven process, we tend to do this. We walk in that 30 minutes, Jonathan, would you not agree? We tend to tell them everything that we're looking for.
We sell ourselves, right? We're great
this is what I want.
people.
This is what I need. I'm looking for this person. And of course, the person sitting across the table is, well, I'm that person. You know, like, oh my gosh, magically they became that master of all those things you just told them that you needed. And then we end up in that same kind of journey. But one of my favorite things about doing this process, and I'm pretty fresh on this. I hired an MCA about a year ago. And she was doing the process with me. And I always let people know up front, this is a process. It's not going to happen in 2 days. You know, it could be a couple of weeks. And I drag it out sometimes for a reason, because I think I get to know the people better through that process. They, you know, people can show up good for 1 meeting. Can they show up good for 3 or 4 meetings? And those are the questions I always ask myself. So this girl was going through the process with me, and she was still working. And she said, you know, I really don't know anything about this job, but I so want to work for you because of what you're doing with me right now. That's a whole different dynamic.
It's career visioning is interesting because it's an experience they've likely not had in any other job, interview, career, right? For someone to sit down and say, I want to get to know you to make sure I lead you the best and that this is the best fit for you. I talk to my coaching clients all the time, and it's interesting, you know, hiring at some point really is the only issue we have. It's the people in our world. And that's usually the day you make your first hire, right? Your problems switch generally into, you now have people problems instead of, sales problems. And it's interesting that most people in this industry didn't come into it and say, I'm coming to real estate because I want to build this massive business. I want to hire people, I want to train people, and I've got a background in it. People got into this industry because they said, I love sales, I love houses, and I'm really good with people in the sales realm. And by proxy, they did so good in sales and they immersed themselves in so much of the other fantastic KWU material and training we have that they're like, hey, guys, I'm crushing it. I'm at 35, 45, 50 transactions. I need help. They kind of stumble into the leadership and the hiring aspect. And out of all the interviews I do, I talk to a lot of people. I would say maybe 5% of the people that I talk to on these interviews came from a background that actually trained them how to hire an interview. The other 95% stumble into it because they're so good at sales, right? Like when I look at career visioning, it's a no-brainer because we don't naturally have that skill set.
Right.
And so coming into a training where you're like, here's the step-by-step process to follow to get to know somebody, that's just massive to me to say, oh, look, there's a model for that too, right? There's a conversation that I need to have there to uncover the information that I need to know if this person's going to be a good fit for me. It's a model.
Think about how most people hire. They tend to hire out of desperation.
Right. Mercy hiring.
Someone leaves their world and they're like, oh my God, I need someone. And they don't have a bench. And so like a mega agent will look at a buyer agent and go, oh, you have a license and you can breathe, come work for me. And they don't follow any kind of system, and they're not always looking for talent. So it's like I always tell our team leaders and our OPs, every time it doesn't matter if I'm in a Uber. I mean, I've gotten 3 or 4 Uber drivers into real estate in different states while I was at events by having them take the KPA and me validating it and then connecting them with a leader. But I tell our leaders all the time, you want to build a bench, you see someone talented, I always just say, hey, you seem like you're super talented, or you open opportunities. And they say, well, yeah, what kind of opportunity? I don't know. I've got lots, but I'd love to send you a leadership assessment and I can kind of see where you may fit in with our organization. And so I KPA as many people as I can, so that it may be 2 years down the later that I circle back and pull up KPAs for a specific role and call people and go, hey, I know we met a couple years ago, and I just want to see if you're still open to opportunities. Being able to have that ability is powerful, especially when you're in a position where you're about to hire out of desperation and you haven't been looking for talent. You haven't been building your bench. And now when you have a model to help you learn how to build that bench and not only build it, then bring them through this process of interviews to uncover whether or not, like Niki said, they would be in alignment with the organization and a good fit. It's just so powerful.
Yeah. It's funny because we're talking about mega agents right now, but all of our leadership, most of us have a little bit of D in us, if not a lot of D in us.
Assertive, this industry, never.
Never. And I think that is a positive, but it's also a negative for many of us in the sense that, when it comes to doing something like the KPA, because it does slow us down a little bit to go through a process. And while for some people they say, but that's painful, what's more painful is the wrong hire.
And expensive.
And right.
Expensive.
And not even talking about the money that it is, there's a process, as Liz, in the class where we talk about the costs of a bad hire. And there's costs that we don't even realize that are happening when we have somebody that's in the wrong position or should have never been in the organization in the first place. Sometimes we have great talent in our organization, but they're on the wrong seat on the bus. And this process sometimes will help to reveal that as well when you go back. So maybe somebody's grown a lot and now they're ready for their next opportunity. And by going back to pieces of this, where you can go back to the motivational interview, find out what's important to them now, because what was important 2 years or 3 years ago, they might have accomplished all of those goals. And now they're ready for the next opportunity. And if we're not paying attention to that, then we're not pouring into our people, and then they're not pouring back into us. And, we have to ask ourselves, and I think, being a mega agent first, that's how I started, is, we always think to support us, not to replace us. And true talent is talent that at someday, some way, they can replace not necessarily you completely, but parts of what you do potentially.
Roles and hats that you wear.
Yes, and free you up to do other things, or do the things that you do best. Because, we all like to think we're great at everything, right, Liz? And then we find out, oh, I'm not so good at that. And there's probably somebody that's really much more talent. And, this process is a way for us to pull that out, and also feel confident that we have the right people surrounding us, because we know what direction they're going in, because we've done a process with them, and their direction aligns with our direction. Otherwise, like you said, Jonathan, we look up 30 days, 60 days into the hire, maybe even sometimes a year into the hire, and go, who is this person? Why are they here? What have I done?
And you look at anyone in leadership, whether you're a mega agent, whether you're in market center leadership, whether you're in, it doesn't matter where. This is the number one tool that's going to help you find talented individuals that are going to help you grow. And as you're growing your organization, you're also growing as a leader by mastering this process. And you learn things. You learn how to make your world bigger so people stay in your world.
Mm-hmm.
You learn how to create opportunities for people in your world. You learn how to train and equip them so that they master their 20% activities in their specific roles, so that by them doing that, you are increasing your organization's profitability and success. And there's not you think about how much money agents spend going to conferences and hearing different speakers, yet I have yet to see any other process or system to hire people ever outside of the leverage series. I'm sure there's some out there, but agents aren't seeking that out. And you have the ability and the tool to find the best talented individuals, and then the system to bring them through to see which of those would be the best possible fit for your organization. And Niki, when you talk about the cost of a bad hire, when I had my own brokerage, we had a couple hundred agents. There was a manager of a big independent brokerage who called me and said, look, I'm leaving. I'm going. I'd like to work for you, but I'm also interviewing with these two people on Monday. And I did not follow my own process. I said to my partner, hey, we may have the potential to pick up 25 or 30 agents just by getting this person over here. And it's either going to be a quick fire or it's going to work out. And 30 days in, it was a disaster. Instead of gaining 30 agents, we probably lost 30 agents by having that person there. And it was just a disaster. And it's because I didn't follow my own process. And that day I said, I will never, ever skip this process again, ever.
Well, you bring up an interesting point on that, Jonathan, of right. And we keep using the word process. And I hope everybody is hearing that, because this is not an event. This is a process. And it's that way for a reason. Niki said at the beginning, sometimes I like to drag it out even a little bit, because when we allow somebody the space where they're comfortable and time, you begin to see the cracks. Authenticity begins to show up. Anybody can fake it for a 45-minute interview. Anybody can put their absolute best foot forward. Over a 3-week period, people deal with stressors, scheduling conflicts, priority changes, right? Like, you're going to see, they let their guard down, they get comfortable with you. All right, I'm on my 4th meeting with Jonathan. Like, I know Jonathan. Jonathan's cool. I like Jonathan, right? Guard begins to come down, and you really get to the root of who somebody is and how they're going to show up, because the best they're going to show up for you is in their interview. So if that interview is 45 minutes versus 4 weeks, which one do we think we're going to see a more authentic version of somebody in? I bet money it's the 4-week version, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, I'd like to take credit for that, slowing it down. That was the wise wisdom of Mo Anderson. When I first started developing this region, so this is 20 years ago, 23 3 years ago, I had what I believed one of my very first OP candidates, somebody to launch a market center. And I thought they were the right person. You know, they had, I thought they had influence. I thought they had all that we needed. And in my reference checking, I was getting lukewarm responses. And what I mean by that, my first level were lukewarm. And that kind of, you know, I'm thinking these are people that work with this person like every day, and they're not like, wow, this is the best person ever, which is normally what you get first level. That's why you have to go 3D, because, and I think if there's anything you do, the most important part is this reference check, because it reveals so much. So then I got to the second level, and they got like really like a lot colder, and they're like, yeah, well, there was a lot of pauses and a lot of you know, and you know, on paper this person looked really good. I get to the third level and people are like, you sure you want to be in business with that person? So I was kind of like, whoa. And I said to Mo, at the time, she was who I was held accountable by, she says to me, slow down the process. Because I said to her, she shows up great every time she's with me. Like, I'm seeing all of the behavior that I think we need for this role. But I'm over here. Mo said, slow it down. Slow it down. She will reveal that person that they're talking about.
Yeah,
And
there's
oh my
something you're not
goodness,
seeing.
it was shocking. You know, I slowed things way down, and a week or so into it, this person called me screaming, like screaming, you know, what is going on? Why are we not moving forward? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, like, it was crazy. And I'll never forget it, because we were in the car. My husband was looking at me like, wow, you know, and I thought, wow, Mo was so wise. And not 24, 48 hours later, we got her resignation letter from the process. She didn't want to go through the process because she was being revealed. And you know, she was, you know, to me, she was a really nice person, but apparently she had a little bit of angst with others. And sometimes there's also a little crazy for some people, you know, and crazy will show up, and crazy can be contained for one meeting, like you said.
Yeah.
But crazy can't be
45
contained.
minutes.
It can't be contained for 3 weeks. You know,
and
crazy
people will reveal. Exactly.
Yeah. So
well, let's imagine, okay, so what do we know? We know that people cut the corners on the process all the time. Like, we know that. We know that people skip the process all the time because they're like, hey, I made my job description, but my sister's, you know, cousin's best friend said they need a job and they've always loved real estate. So I'm going to hire them. What would be either of your advice? Like, if somebody's made the hire and said, I didn't follow the process at 100%, or I didn't do it at all, what do we do now? Like,
well, I think a shift. There's a part in shift, and it's either page 43 or 46, and it says the 7 steps to a talent shift. And it's when you resetting expectations with your team or your organization. And so you may have not done the CV process with anyone on your team, and it's okay. I'd read through the 7 steps to a talent shift, and there's a bottom part that says I'll accept resignations or results. Either are okay with me. And I think it's a great time to reset and go, hey, I've learned some tools that can help us work together better. Me learn how to help serve you to get you to achieve the goals that you've desired, and bring your people through the CV process. It doesn't matter that you didn't do it. Just start now.
It doesn't matter that they're already employed. You can still do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then for you yourself, I would say get to CV as many times as you can, because each time you go through it, you're going to learn something new you didn't learn the first time. I mean, you're talking about 4 powerful interviews. You're not going to master those interviews going through one class. You're just not going to do it. And so mastering this process, I would tell you, get to as many CV courses as you can. Begin to use the KPA as much as you can. You can send out the personal report to anyone you want to try to start building a talent base. And if you bring your team through the CV process and you're building a bench at the same time, you won't be fearful if there's a team member that you already know is out of alignment with you and you need to get out of business with them, but you're not because you go, I don't have anyone to replace them with. You now have a bench. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think many times people come to CV and they say, oh, but I've got, all these people on my team already. And I'll say, well, that's okay. Here's your opportunity. Number one, I would always say, start with a motivational interview. Go back and do a motivational interview with every one of your team members. And the reason for that is because you want to see where their head is. You want to know what were they thinking? Where was their bus going? Is their bus going in the same direction as your bus? And I think what has happened for many people that have actually done that, they've reached back out to me and said, it was really interesting because I didn't realize what was so important to them. And either they were in line and it made us tighter and more focused and more able to accomplish things better, or they had the aha that they weren't in alignment here and that this probably wasn't the best fit for them. A lot of times this is a way where people select out when they realize that it's probably not going to be a fit. And like you said, Jonathan, using the shift process, I always say to people, the outcome doesn't matter to me. You can't get attached to the outcome of the process. Yep. And the other thing that you can do is you can check references after they're in the organization. And that gives you an opportunity if something comes back that's a little gray, or maybe a little red flag, sit down with them, have a conversation, find out what that was about. That puts people on alert that you're plugged in, you care about them, you care about your organization. And that will also cause them to either, like you said, become vulnerable, share, pull down the shield, share their story, become real with you, or they will select out because now you're in too deep and you know too much and they can't hide anymore. They can't hide that part of their lives. I think I can honestly tell you, and I'm just coming clean, I have tried to skip steps through these 20-something years of doing this. Every single time I have skipped a step, as minor as it might have been, it comes back to bite me.
Comes back to bite you. Guilty as well. I think we all are, right? That's why it's so important not to, because I always like the phrase, some of us learn from other people's mistakes and some of us are the other people. Meaning some of us are going to be the ones that make the mistakes that people learn from. So you get to choose. Right. Do you learn from 25 years of experience from somebody who has made the mistakes? Or are you going to choose to forge your own 25-year path and say, hey, I'm going to make my own mistakes and I don't need to listen to what you said. I'm different, right? My cousin's best friend is different than everyone else's cousin's best friend that we hired. Yeah. I know exactly who they are. It's astonishing what shows up. And I do think it's crucial to say that we can go in once they've been hired and say, you know what, I didn't do this. And now I see how important it is. The connection, the bonding, the understanding, the way that you can lead a motivated person, everything changes when you understand these things about them.
Right. So, and I, if you don't mind, I just want to touch on one thing. Okay. This process needs to be done with family too. If you're hiring family, you need to go through this process because we think we know what our family's thinking, even if it's the motivational interview. I mean, the point is that do we really know what's important to somebody unless we actually ask the question? And while family can be an awesome addition to your team or to where you're going, you also should not hire if you're not able to fire. That's my motto. If you can't fire, don't hire. So
my son married the MCA. my son Noah, he works at Keller Williams in San Antonio, and he married the MCA. And I actually called her. I FaceTimed them together when they were engaged, and her name is Fong. And I said, "Hey, Fong, I need to ask you a handful of questions, and I'm sending you a leadership assessment." I started asking some of the motivational, and my son went, "Are you CVing Fong right now? And I was just playing with them, but
Yeah.
your point
You're like,
is, Nikki, you
well,
need to bring your
maybe.
family members to the same process.
Hey, it's important to know who you're in business with, whether you're married to them or not. It's important
right.
to know who you're in business with. So we're going to wrap our session today. First, I want to thank you guys for being our very first Leverage Series instructors to be part of CV and Caffeine. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation.
Been fun.
It's fun.
Second, I want you to tell everybody, if you have any current career visioning or any of the Leverage series on the books that they could attend, right? This is one of those things that they don't know it's in their area, or they don't know they can get to it and maybe get somewhere a little sunnier and warmer than where they are to attend it. They won't. So do we have anything currently on the books for either of you? And then the second part of that is, if a market center or region wants to book either of you to come out for the Leverage series or career visioning, either part, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, currently, my calendar, we're working on locations for this. I teach it in our region. I also teach it in my market centers. I try to offer it as much as I possibly can. I was just in Austin. I taught it at KWRI.
South Florida, nice and warm. Yeah,
Nice and
so
warm.
Nikki's
It's in
appealing
Florida.
already.
So we're in South Florida. So if you wanted to come, we're happy to get you our Leverage series calendar. Just reach out to our ROM there, which is kwrg9@kw.com. If you want to ask for me, it's Nikkiu, Nikkiu @kw.com. And that way, if if we can fit it in the calendar, we'd love to fit it in the calendar. I am passionate about CV. I've also taken pieces of CV, and I'll teach a concentrated part where I've spent just on the actual processes versus, because there's a lot of content that sets it all up. But I've actually taken apart and worked in a workshop type mode with groups of people, with some of my megas who just love that because it allowed them to ask questions. So, I will teach the whole process, but I can also do workshops. So.
Perfect. Jonathan, how about you?
Yeah, I'm teaching twice in the first quarter in Las Vegas, and I'm teaching twice in Phoenix in the first quarter. You can go to JonathanDupreeLeadership.com and learn more about those events. And also, I teach it all over the country. And if you want specifically to learn how to bring it into your region, go to JonathanDupreeLeadership.com/leverage. And you can learn more about the course and how you can bring it into your area.
Awesome.
Actually, you could go to our regional calendar too, which is kwopportunity.com. So
like it. People are easy to go to a webpage. So give us your mic drop moment. Jonathan, we'll go with you first. You had to leave with one thing today for everybody. One takeaway, one nugget, one mic drop. What would it be?
I was hiring somebody. I was really excited about him. I was talking to Gary about it, and he said, "What's your gut tell you?" And I was about to say, my gut tells me they're fantastic. And then I caught myself because I teach this all the time. And there's a section in CV that says gut gave up thinking. And I said, well, my gut tells me they're talented, but I need to bring them through the entire process. And so I would tell you, don't give up thinking. Learn this system, master it, and don't be attached to the outcome like Nikki said. So gut, don't give up thinking.
All right, Nikki, mic drop.
I say that while you might be a high D and you say, I don't have the time, I think we all need to make the time because we have to slow down to go fast. And if you're not willing to slow down to put the right people in the right seats on your bus, you're going to be slowed down even more. And for a high D or somebody that says they don't have time, you're now tripling or quadrupling the amount of time that you're going to spend versus if you just did it right the first time. So slow down, take the time, and don't get attached to the outcome.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. We hope you enjoy this. Make sure anybody that's going to be entering a leadership position in your business, anybody who's thinking about entering a leadership position in your business, CV minimum twice a year. Leverage series is absolutely crucial. Nikki, Jonathan, thank you so much for your time today. We will see you guys all on the next CV and Caffeine in February. Have a good one.
Thank you. Take care.